I confess to you that some days are harder than others. And I find that it's those days, despite how prepared I may be for them, on which would have formerly been the bulwarks against the depredations of the vandals currently in charge of everything, that prove themselves deeply flawed, broken, or completely inoperative, that I have the hardest time seeing a way through. Or, maybe there's a better way to put it, because there's always a way through, right? It's on a day such as today when the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court once again completely overlooks issues that are fundamental to who we are as a people, that I believed were enshrined in the Constitution, things that mattered to the rule of law, like, I don't know, due process, for example. Days like today, when it becomes clear that the keys of this government were thrown to the people least fit to run it, do not care about our people, and who are perfectly willing to use our children as collateral damage to achieve their own extraordinarily twisted ends, that I realize that the terms of the fight we must wage are different from what we thought they were. The terms of this fight are unfamiliar. And because of that, they seem more dangerous and they seem less certain, because I think it's fair to say most of us alive right now never face what this country is currently facing. So, again, it's a tough day, but understanding the terms of the fight will help us be prepared for what it is we're eventually going to have to do. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this evening's episode of Mary Trump Live. It is wonderful to be here with you, despite the fact, or actually because of the fact, that it was a very tough day. So we're going to talk about a lot of it, but there's also some good news to look forward to as well. This afternoon, Donald signed an executive order aimed at boosting coal mining and coal usage in the United States. That's not good news. The order will instruct federal agencies to eliminate obstacles to coal leasing and mining, relax environmental reviews of coal projects, and explore the potential role of coal-fired electricity in powering new AI data centers, which sounds awesome. The regime plans to classify coal as a critical mineral, potentially accelerating federal approval for new mines and open more federal land to mining activities. Who needs environmental protections? Donald cites miners wanting to mine as his motivation behind this move. Take a look.
In the first campaign where Hillary Clinton was about 4 states too early, and she was talking about how bad coal was and how that they were going to teach coal miners how to make widgets and gadgets and technology, which they didn't want to do. They want to mine. One thing I learned about the coal miners, that's what they want to do. You could give them a penthouse on Fifth Avenue and a different kind of a job, and they'd be unhappy. They want to mine coal. That's what they love to do. And she was going to put them in a high-tech industry where you make little cell phones and things. I don't know. Do you think you'd be good at that? I don't know. I wouldn't be. You don't want to be.
All right. Well, it says the guy who's not good at anything. So I guess it would be difficult for him to imagine any human being being good at anything. Doesn't have an imagination. But is that true? Coal miners only want to mine coal? Like, if somebody really, which is what Hillary Clinton tried to do, if somebody offered them the kind of jobs training that could put them in jobs that didn't destroy their bodies, shorten their lives, and put them in constant danger, and still make a living wage, I don't know. Sounds good to me, but what do I know? I'm not Donald Trump. Oh, so that means I know something, because he doesn't know anything. So while Donald works to destroy our government and our environment, he also took a moment to attack clean energy in Europe.
The countries went to beautiful clean coal, and they've stayed there for many years, like China. China's opening 2 plants every week. Germany went green, very green. They went so green they almost went out of business. Germany was finished. They went to wind. The wind wasn't blowing too much. And they went to all sorts of other things. You know, the Green New Scam hit Germany too. And guess what? Now they're back to coal. They're opening up coal plants all over Germany. We're the ones that aren't doing it.
Yeah. That's totally how it's working. Yeah, the wind doesn't blow, so then no energy for you. Like your TV's going to stop working. I know it shouldn't shock me anymore, but the fact that people listen to that and think that Donald knows what he's talking about, or they think he's funny, or they appreciate his mockery, that continues to mystify me. And when he says things like beautiful, clean coal to a bunch of coal miners who must know about this thing called black lung. Have you ever seen an autopsy done on somebody who had black lung? It's kind of similar to what you would see if you did an autopsy on somebody who chain smoked for their entire life and they lived to be 90. But it's worse. Earlier this year, Donald urged the Army Corps of Engineers to open 2 dams in central California and let roughly 2.2 billion gallons of water flow out of reservoirs with a misguided intent to send the water aid in the effort to combat Los Angeles wildfires. Water experts said there were 2 problems. One, the water never even made it to Los Angeles. And secondly, it was mostly wasted by being released in the winter wet season. If this summer is particularly dry, there won't be much water to help farmers in need. Despite knowing this, or at least you should know this, Donald bragged about it today to the coal miners. Watch this.
You will not be subject to the incredible blackout situation that's taking place in California, where they have blackouts all the time. It's an amazing thing with California. They have blackouts and brownouts at levels that nobody's ever seen before. And all they want to do is keep going the way they're going. And they're doing a very poor job. As you probably heard, I released billions of gallons of water going in from upstate California, from the most northern parts of California. Probably comes in from Canada to a certain extent. Thank you very much, Canada. We appreciate it.
Oh, well, at least he didn't make a quip about Canada being the 51st state. That was restrained of him. Yes, billions of gallons of water that were wasted. I mean, unless, of course, the sharks with laser beams on their heads needed some water. You know, that might be the only justification for releasing $2.2 billion, gallons of water onto soil that was already super saturated, wasting that water for no reason whatsoever. Donald isn't just stopping there, though, of course. Basically, if you look at what's happening with our economy, it's plunging. There are swings back and forth in the markets because of the tariff chaos that he has single-handedly created, and Americans are feeling quite anxious. According to Axios, consumer sentiment plunged on Monday following news of steep tariffs and market volatility. Morning Consult's confidence index dropped to 90.6, which is down 5 points from the previous week. That is a large swing in a very short period of time. The Consumer Confidence Index, which is a measure of consumer sentiment, is benchmarked at 100, with readings above 100 indicating optimism and readings below 100 suggesting pessimism. I think we're below that. We're in the pessimistic territory right now because of the volatility and uncertainty, the self-imposed, I should say, volatility and uncertainty in the markets right now. In March, the NFIB Small Business Optimism Index dropped 3.3% to 97.4, the sharpest decline since 2020 when something really big was happening. Expectations for better business conditions fell 16 points to a net 21%, while anticipated real sales dropped 11 points to just 3%. Top concerns among owners were labor quality, 19%, and taxes, 18%, reflecting growing anxiety over the Trump regime's escalating trade policies. Now, the anxiety is because of the effects, the impact that Donald's so-called policies are having. But I think we also need to recognize that the impact is the result of a complete lack of coherent, sane policy in the first place. He started a unilateral, unprovoked trade war. He did this because he understands only one kind of power, and that is the power of dominance. He neglects to remember, and we're seeing how this is playing out in many other areas in the United States right now. He does not understand that there are other kinds of power that are better to wield in certain circumstances. Soft power, for example, negotiation, statecraft, diplomacy. He understands none of these things. So, by entering into dominance politics with our trading partners and expecting a result that he's not getting, he is creating an increasingly dangerous and untenable situation. Why? Because our former allies, our former trading partners, are not sitting back and taking it. Maybe if he had singled one country out at a time, it would be different. Maybe he would be able to blackmail France, for example. Maybe. But every other country is seeing what's happened. That this is an onslaught, a full frontal attack on all of America's trading partners. And what are they doing? Well, one, they're responding with their own tariffs, which Donald is calling unprovoked. He's actually accusing China of having punched us first, even though they're simply responding to the tariffs he's imposed upon them. The European Union is looking for other trading partners and other trading alliances, as are countries like Canada and China. China is going to be the winner here, and we are going to be the losers. Why? Well, because if you're led by a loser, it's kind of inevitable. Fears are only growing as tariffs are set to take effect tomorrow, and they just keep rising. Why? Because Donald understands none of this and won't take no for an answer. He announced today, and this is I know a lot of what he does is insane and makes no sense, but this is absolutely off the charts crazy. He announced today that tariffs on all Chinese imports will rise to at least 104%, which is that's an understatement, a dramatic escalation from the 10% blanket tariff imposed in February. The hike includes an unexpected 50% penalty added after China confirmed it would enact 34% retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods. China called the move mistake upon a mistake and vowed to escalate retaliation against U.S. exports. U.S. markets reacted sharply to the announcement, with the NASDAQ and S&P dipping into negative territory. Once again, the world economy is at the whim of a vengeful, completely ignorant maniac. Oh, let me clarify. I'm talking about Donald. It could have been Elon Musk or Peter Navarro, but in this case, it happens to be Donald. Congressional Republicans and business leaders alike are terrified of what's to come, and uncertainty reigns as the world waits for Donald's next move, which I'm not sure why we're waiting. We know what's going to happen. He's now feeling challenged. Do we seriously think he's going to come to his senses, which do not exist? Of course not. Because part of this is his recognizing just how much power he has. Do you think he cares if the American economy is good? No. He cares that he has the power to move the needle in one direction or another. He has the power to ruin people's lives. He has the power. Now, granted, our former allies and trading partners aren't doing what he wanted them to do. They are not submitting to his blackmail. They are retaliating as they should. But they're still doing it because of him. And I'm pretty sure he likes that. So please don't wait. Canada, European Union, NATO allies, even China, Don't wait. You know what's coming. Stick to your guns and follow through. Do not negotiate with this monster. Isn't that the thing? Never negotiate with hostage takers. And he's trying to hold all of you hostage. Before we continue, I just want to acknowledge and thank all of you for tuning in on YouTube, Substack, and our podcast. If you'd like to support us, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. It's at Mary Trump Media, or to my Substack, which is at The Good in Us, or wherever you listen to the podcast. That would be awesome. We are a truly independent news organization, so your subscriptions literally fund us, not some media oligarchs. We are beholden to nobody but you, and our obligation to you is to tell you the truth and present you with the facts. Donald is not the only one scrambling to keep our country running. Is he doing that? No. But some House GOP leaders are scrambling in this way. The entire Republican caucus is in chaos as they struggle to align on the Senate proposed budget resolution. The Senate has called for just $4 billion in spending cuts, which has sparked outrage among the far right in the House, which quite honestly is all of them. But there is a special little part of the caucus of the Republican side in the House who are absolutely insane. They call themselves deficit hawks. But what they're arguing is that the Senate cuts fall far short of the deep cuts they want. They are pushing for $1.5 trillion to $2 trillion in spending reductions, which again is insane. House Speaker Mike Johnson is relying on Donald to help secure votes, including holding a White House meeting with key holdouts. Still, significant resistance remains, particularly over the need for more concrete spending cuts and concerns about avoiding growing deficits. It seems like Donald has a lot of meetings to take this week between desperate members of the GOP and economic leaders who are desperate to save their businesses from an economic crash. And let's be clear, that's what they're desperate about. They don't care about the American economy unless it is benefiting them. It is suddenly, they were among Donald's biggest cheerleaders. But now with the GOP, they are seeing the impact that all of this insanity is having on their constituents. They cannot possibly justify it without lying to their faces. So they're canceling town meetings. So what they're trying to do behind the scenes is cut deals with the Trump regime and say, hey, we'll support you, but can you make an exception for my district so my people don't get hurt, so I get reelected? By the same token, business leaders who have been rallying around Donald for way too long are finally, I don't know what took so long, seeing how ill-advised and misguided that was, because it's starting to have a massive impact on their bottom line. And listen, if the American economy were crashing and their businesses were doing well, we wouldn't be having this conversation, would we? Late yesterday, the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court, with one exception, allowed the Trump regime to resume deportations under the Alien Enemies Act, which is from 1798. Although deportations can't proceed immediately without due process. I'm so curious how that's going to work out. The court ruled that accused individuals must be given notice and a chance to contest their removal, complicating the Trump regime's plan to fast-track deportations to a notorious prison in El Salvador. Over 100 migrants have already been deported without hearings, raising major legal questions about their rights and whether they'll receive any form of recourse. The ACLU filed a new lawsuit on behalf of detainees in New York, challenging their classification as gang members, while future hearings are expected to occur in Texas, where most migrants are being held. All right, well, thank you, corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court, for that, for handing the Trump regime a win in a case that to me seemed pretty black and white. I'm not a lawyer. What do I know? But I don't know. I keep thinking that the rule of law matters and things like due process matter. Things that should still be respected, but I guess not if you're brown. Do we really think that this is enough to get Donald to stop what he's doing? Do we seriously think that fascists like Caroline Leavitt and Tom Homan and Christy Nome, the puppy murderer, are going to say, oh my, well, the Supreme Court says that we need some guardrails in place and we need to slow this process down? In case we weren't paying attention, the constitutional crisis has been here for quite some time. Of course, we should actually say crises, but the constitutional crisis involving the Trump regime and its horrifically disrespectful relationship with the rule of law, that ship has sailed. So I am not sanguine about whether or not they're even going to bother following the tepid instructions handed down by the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of this Supreme Court. The Department of Homeland Security announced that it's revoking parole protections for 985,000 migrants who entered the U.S. using the CBP-1 app under the Biden administration. So these are individuals who were previously granted temporary legal status and work authorization while pursuing asylum. The app was just for ease of use. It made it easier for them to get that status. Now, the Trump regime says this parole was an abuse of executive power, and who knows more about the abuse of executive power than Donald Trump? And the regime is instructing migrants to self-deport using a rebranded version of the app with the Orwellian, cruel, and petty and despicable name, CBP Home. Here are some key details. The affected migrants had scheduled appointments at ports of entry using CBP-1, a process created to reduce illegal crossings and streamline asylum claims. Uniting for Ukraine and Operation Allies Welcome programs are not impacted yet. A previous revocation of parole for Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans, which is over 500,000 people, and I'm trying to think what people from those countries have in common, but it isn't coming to me. Maybe you guys will be able to remind me. That's going to take effect on April 24th. The Trump regime is reviving a 1996 law to impose a $998 daily fine on migrants who remain in the United States after receiving a final deportation order, and will apply the fines retroactively up to 5 years, potentially saddling individuals with over $1 million in debt. That reminds me of something. Well, one, it reminds me of the fact that Donald has never paid any of his fucking debts. There's that. It also reminds me of a little practice called convict leasing from Jim Crow. According to internal documents reviewed by Reuters, the administration also plans to seize property from migrants who don't pay. Wow. Like what? Almost $1,000 a day for a misdemeanor. That's what that amounts to. So if we think for a second that Donald or Homan or Noam or Stephen Miller or any of these Nazis is going to stop what they're doing because a bunch of white guys in black robes told them to, I'm sorry, we have another thing coming. Well, in better news, at least, JD Vance is lonely. Yep, he's having a hard time as vice president. Oh, by the way, just as a reminder, JD Vance is the vice president. According to his wife, I'm not entirely sure why anybody really cares what she has to say. It's very hard for JD to deal with being booed in public, and he's feeling very sad. And this is a quote in his quote, very lonely, lonely world, unquote. The world he occupies while he attempts to ruin our country alongside Donald. And I have to, maybe this will make JD feel better. I'm sure it will, because he's a sociopath and a sadist. Where it's going to be really lonely for people? Having to leave their children wherever so they can go wait on bread lines for hours because they can't afford basic essentials like food anymore because of you. It's possible that JD Vance needs some new friends, but are there any people left in the world with that little taste, with such low standards? I mean, I personally was hoping that it was going to work out with the polar bears in Greenland, but I guess it didn't. It isn't just Vance. It turns out that Peter Navarro, which is very sad for us. He's a key trade advisor to the Trump regime. He's been citing a fictional economist named Ron Vara to justify Donald's controversial tariff plans. I mean, I guess that's what really, really lonely adults do. They make up invisible friends because Vara is an anagram of Navarro's own name. And it was presented, this fictional person was presented as a source in Navarro's books, pushing the idea that tariffs would help secure Donald's victories. I mean, and this is kind of a thing that happens, right? With insecure megalomaniacs. Like Donald had an alter ego called John Barron, who was allegedly a vice president in his company and a publicist or something. And he used John Barron's persona using his own voice, which is, as we know, quite distinctive, to pump up Donald's wealth. Like he would speak to reporters as John Barron and lie about how much money Donald Trump had, because it was all my grandfather's money, in an effort to get him on the Forbes 500 list, which, by the way, worked. Despite the bizarre nature of the claim, Navarro has repeatedly used Vara's supposed expertise in his push for aggressive trade policies. But as it turns out, Navarro needed someone to back someone up so badly, he made the guy up. And I guess, if you're lonely, who needs friends when you could just pretend? I don't know. I don't think that is particularly that important as a is a tactic they're using. These people are desperate and these people are liars and these people will do whatever they want to or can get away with in order to get their preferred policies through, or in order to justify them however they feel they need to the American people. But there is still something so deranged about all of this, so unserious and so disturbing, that I do think it is worth mentioning. They're this deeply immature, ignorant, and yes, stupid, but that's even the least of it. They are underhanded in a way that's unsophisticated and, quite frankly, deeply insulting. A U.S. District Judge, Trevor McFadden, has ordered that the White House restore access for Associated Press journalists to the Oval Office, Air Force One, and other key events while the AP's lawsuit moves forward. You may remember that the lawsuit challenges restrictions imposed by senior aides to Donald that allegedly sought to coerce the AP into, and here's the unseriousness that I was talking about, using the administration's preferred terminology in its coverage, specifically in reference to the Gulf of Mexico, which Donald erroneously, incorrectly, and without any authority whatsoever continues to refer to as the Gulf of America because he is a friggin' deranged toddler. Donald's team argues the agency isn't entitled to special access because they refuse to lie about what the Gulf of Mexico is called. But the judge's order temporarily lifts those limitations, ensuring press access remains intact as the legal battle continues. The fact that this is a legal battle should also just fill us all with shame. All right, let's end on a high note. Like a high note before the emotional support moment. How cool is that? Like that never happens. Okay, so the impeach. All right, I have to break my own rule because this is in quotes and it's what it's called. So I'm going to ask myself for forgiveness, which seems weird. There's a campaign called Impeach Trump Again. It's stepping up its efforts by launching a crowdfunded billboard on the road to Mar-a-Lago, urging the public to support another impeachment effort against Donald Trump. Obviously, Donald Trump. This initiative is fueled by grassroots donations and aims to hold Donald accountable legally and politically. The billboard will be prominently displayed, capturing the attention of travelers in Florida and they deserve it. If they're on their way to Mar-a-Lago, man, they deserve it. They deserve worse. And he certainly deserves it because, as we know, he's like practically goes to Mar-a-Lago every day. How do I know this? Because of the massive amounts of taxpayer money being spent to get him there. Okay. Today's emotional support moment. I could have used this about 6 hours ago, actually. I think maybe that's what I need to start a collection of emotional support moments that I can just pull out at any given time. In the state of Minnesota, there's a 2-year-old Maine Coon named Mr. Pugsley Adams. It's a great name for a big cat. Maine Coons are awesome. I have friends who have them. They're very large. Anyway, Pugs, that's what I'm calling him. I should have asked his permission. Mr. Adams, with 2 Ds to distinguish from the horrible mayor of New York, has set a new Guinness World Record for the longest tail. Not sure how I feel about this. On a living domestic cat. Like, how would we know if you weren't? Anyway, check this out.
In the U.S. state of Minnesota, a 2-year-old Maine Coon named Mr. Pugsley Adams has set a new Guinness World Record following an official announcement on Wednesday for the longest tail on a living domestic cat. The cat has a tail that measures an impressive 46.99 centimeters long. The feline's owner noted that Pugsley's tail drew attention during his initial veterinary visits, prompting the official measurement. Described as having a mischievous yet affectionate nature, Pugsley was named after a character from the American sitcom The Addams Family.
Well, actually, it was named after the cartoon. Or maybe they only saw the TV show. Either way, I had to be honest with you. I was a little alarmed. I didn't want the tail to be too long. It might have scared me. That's a beautiful tail. It's not just long, it's fluffy. It has breadth. So congratulations, Mr. Pugsley Adams, you mischievous thing. That's awesome. Anyway, let us turn to your questions and comments. Okay. See, this is what happens when rumors get out. People actually think there's a late fee now. Nanner, thank you so much. Comment, I was early, no late fee. You could have been late and you wouldn't have had a late fee, but we appreciate it anyway. And stop spreading disinformation. That's the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing here. Ev, thank you so much, Ev. Comment, SCOTUS has broken my last thread of hope. Well, yeah, I understand. And I don't dispute that what this corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court is doing is horrific. They will continue to do more horrific things. They will undermine the rule of law. They will help accelerate the dismantling of American democracy. They will throw out the Constitution. They will do all of that. Yes, I know. However, let's remember something. This is a corrupt, illegitimate supermajority that has been decades in the making. This is a manufactured supermajority that was designed for the very reasons it was designed to do things like overturn Roe versus Wade, to essentially undo the Chevron doctrine, to create an imperial presidency at the right time, and to make sure that any president of that they preferred would be able to do anything and get away with anything as long as it could be shown to be an official act. And who exactly gets to make that decision? So this has been in the works for a very long time. That having been said, those guys, not just the Supreme Court, but I mean the entire Trump regime, they're in burn it down mode. Do we seriously think that as an institution, the Supreme Court is going to withstand what we're facing? Absolutely not. Those 6 justices are no safer than we are. In fact, one could argue they're less safe. I read something today that kind of blew my mind. Amy Coney Barrett did her job and rendered a decision. It just happened that her stance on the I mean, not across the board, but she was concerned about habeas rights, and she sided in a narrow way with the so-called 3 liberal justices, and she is being attacked mercilessly on the right. And there was a headline that actually, and I'm paraphrasing, I wish I had it in front of me, but because it was so awful. The headline actually said something like, Coney Barrett gets attacked from the right for going up against Donald. Wow. That's how we're characterizing these things now, is it? So you see where this is heading. And also, yeah, there may be no hope for the Supreme Court, but that doesn't mean there's no hope for the rest of us. Always. Robin R44, thank you so very much. That's very kind of you. Comment, we will win this fight. Yeah, I believe we will. Just a question of when. Like, when are we going to be able to make the move? And how quickly are things going to keep imploding? And how quickly are they going to keep burning it down? Because we're not doing anything. We're just standing by and watching. Donna, thank you very much. That's awesome. Comment, hi, Mary. I appreciate all that you do. Just my opinion, Donald is the father of lies. He really should stop talking. Oh my, yes, Donald, stop talking. Could you imagine if it were that easy? Or that easy? But yeah, I mean, I cannot say this definitively, but I do not think there is a person who ever lived that lies with the frequency and fluency of Donald Trump. Caroline Leavitt is giving him a run for her money, but she's been on the planet about 5 decades fewer. So give her time. Although my personal hope is that she, like the rest of them, will end up at the Hague. I don't know how to say that, but Farge Tech, maybe? Question, and thank you very much. Question, why no tariffs on Russia? It's a mystery. I literally can't figure that one out. Yeah, no tariffs on Russia because Russia is now our closest ally, and Donald will never do anything to upset Vladimir Putin. Like, could they be more obvious? And I guess that's the thing. Like, why do they have to pretend anymore? They don't. A purpley one, thank you very much. Very kind of you. Comment, Mary, thank you for being you. You're the best Trump in my eyes. I am not. But thank you for thinking I am. There's a better one out there, actually. But it's none of the ones you're aware of. So I'll take it. And I am me, yes. I'm very happy to be here with you guys. Tina, Canadian in the house. Thank you, Canada. Thank you for that. You guys rock as always. Comment. Question. Hi, Mary. I was listening to Chris Norland. When Donald talks about the 1800s tariffs, that time was the plantation times. So he wants to bring slavery back. Question. Yes. Listen, they are bringing back convict leasing. They are plucking people who are allowed to be here legally and deporting them simply because they're brown and they're trying to make a point, and they are sending them to a notorious prison with major human rights violations and unspeakable conditions in order to do hard labor. That is convict leasing. That is what we did to Black people during Jim Crow after the North failed and ended Reconstruction. There's no difference here. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, in her dissent today, reminded us of the Korematsu decision, which was when we actually had Japanese internment camps during World War II. How is any of this different? It's not, and it's going to be worse. Yeah, they're gunning for 1860, maybe 1850. And John Roberts, well. Just me, Australia. Thank you, as always, for that. The Singaporean Prime Minister gave an amazing speech, worth a listen, very clear analysis. I will check that out. That's good to know. Thank you for that information. I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this properly, so forgive me. Banked? Yeah. Pronunciation of names is not my forte. But thank you so much for that gift. And your comment is keep up the good fight. We have every intention of doing so. So thank you. Diane, thank you very much. Question: what do you think of the bicameral congressional hearings Schiff and Raskin are holding? I think that Democrats should be doing as much of that kind of thing as possible. It's not, of course, it's not the only thing they should be doing, obviously, but it's important, and it's a version of the thing that the nerds and I were talking about during the transition. They should have been holding shadow confirmation hearings. Now they should be holding shadow hearings about all sorts of things that are going on. They should be talking to people who've been forced out or fired illegally or what have you. We need to hear. I think it's extremely, extremely important that they do this work, but it's only going to matter if people know about it. Get the videotapes out there. Get your messaging down. Be unified in your messaging. I'm sure you guys remember the January 6th hearing. Those were so incredibly well produced. And I mean that in a good way. A real professional helped them produce those hearings to make them as effective as possible, to maximize the impact. And they had a massive impact on the American people. That's the kind of thing they need to be doing now. Loves my dogs a lot. Thank you as always. That's awesome. Question. So if cutting spending is such a big deal, why is a big military parade on Donald's birthday being considered under the guise of celebrating Army Day or whatever it is? Such a good question. Yeah, Donald's stupid birthday coincides with Flag Day, which is, I mean, I could be wrong about this, but I don't think that's a national holiday. I think some states have it and some states don't. Like, I don't think New York has Flag Day. I didn't know what Flag Day was until I lived in Massachusetts, which has Flag Day. So, yeah, I from what I understand, for those of you who haven't heard, I mean, I'm sure none of this will surprise you, of course. Donald wants to have a military parade on his birthday, but he's using Flag Day as an excuse. Now, he's wanted this for years, ever since he was in Paris for the Bastille Day celebration. And he was told in no uncertain terms, one, that can't happen because of the budget. It would be around $93 million. And two, having all of those heavy machines like tanks driving through the streets of not Maryland, Virginia and DC would destroy said streets. And plus, of course, just the logistical nightmare and how much of the city would need to be shut down and how much of the airspace, it would just be a nightmare. Does Donald care? No. And now there's nobody to say no to him. So what does he care if he has to spend more of our money repaving all of the streets in DC and Virginia? He wants his military parade because he's so special. And listen, hey, who shouldn't have a military parade if he got 5 deferments to avoid going to Vietnam? Beans, thank you so very much for that. Question. Mary, did Donald ever own a pet? Thank God, no. I don't recall a White House that was void of a four-legged friend. I don't think there has been a White House devoid of a four-legged friend or other kinds of pets. No. My grandparents, and therefore their 5 children, never had pets in the house. I don't think anybody except my dad was interested. And like one of the first things my dad did after my parents got married was get a dog. So they had dogs. And then after he moved out, he switched gears a little bit. He had pets like he had snakes. Like my mom and I, we mostly with my mom, we had cats. So that's how I became a cat person. I don't remember the dogs. I was too little or I wasn't around. But when my dad was on his own, he had snakes and we had a tortoise, we had an iguana, like he was into reptiles. So yes, he loved animals and he loved having pets. However, if there had been pets in the Trump household, there might also have been a lot of little graves around the neighborhood. Just speculating in an informed way. All right. Tanta the Indian, thank you so very much for that. Yes, comment. Lonely. Vance is so lonely. He has nobody but Usha to moan. Yeah, little violins. Or is it this? This is the little violin. I don't know how to play either kind of violin, so I'm not really sure how it works. But it's tiny. He's vile. Polar bears, next time. Dumpster diving dragon, thank you so much for that. As always, comment. Always wondered what it's like becoming insane. Yeah. See, we're learning so much. We're also seeing what it looks like to deteriorate and decompensate in front of people's eyes. OC Mom, thank you so much for that. Comment, Donald and his minions are giving me Handmaid's Tale vibes in the worst way. The misogynists are out in full force. Yes, they are indeed. The misogynists, the racists, the anti-immigrant haters, the Islamophobes, the anti-Semites, the misanthropes. These people are just misanthropic. They just hate all of humanity. They even hate themselves, unfortunately. Well, not all of them. But people like Donald, they just are so full of so much self-loathing, but because it's unconscious and they can't wrap their heads around it. See, Lyndon has a lot to say about this too, but he doesn't have a microphone. You know, it gets displaced onto other groups of people who are easier to target and who are more vulnerable. So yeah, it's pretty horrifying. Denissa, thank you as always. Question: is there a lawyer on the Mary Trump media team who can answer our legal questions and maybe do a weekly video about the week's legal process? No, there should be. You're right. We should have. I mean, there are nerds who are lawyers, but yeah, I mean, I think it would be extremely helpful from time to time to have a legal expert on. We do our best here, but we're not lawyers, obviously, and I think there are some nuances that we miss. As much as we try to stay up to date and informed, it's much different to do that as an expert in the field, obviously. So I think all of us would benefit from that. I do plan to start doing could do Substack lives, and I think it would be cool if we could cross post them or live stream them. One way, I whatever the technical ways doing it. Like I know for a fact I will be discussing with Joyce Vance in the not too distant future what's happening with white shoe law firms and their complete and utter capitulation to the Trump regime and the impact that's going to have on the rule of law. So yes, I do plan to do more things like this, but I think to make it a regular part of the lineup would be extraordinarily helpful. So thank you for that. Douglas, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Question, Mary, do you think that there will be a breaking point with the GOP for finally standing up to Donald? I don't know. I think I think honestly, I think the answer is yes. However, they're probably going to wait too long. They're going to wait until we're past the point of no return, or at least they're past the point of no return. So I don't know if ultimately we'll end up making it any difference. But from what I understand, the GOP has in the Senate has there are 7 Republicans in the Senate who are willing to sign on to this bill being considered to limit Donald's ability unilaterally to impose tariffs, which, by the way, is an ability he only has because Republicans ceded it to him. So that's ironic. But 7 is enough to get to cloture. So we'll have to see. That would be a good start. The House, on the other hand, is a completely separate issue. They are out of control, and Mike Johnson will do anything to do Donald's bidding. So that is. We need somehow to hope that the Democrats can take control of the House before next year's election. There are ways. I mean, the margins are so incredibly thin, but some things would have to break our way. Tova, thank you very much for that comment. Thank you for being here again today. It really matters. God knows we We need all the voices we can get speaking truth to don the cons lies. Well, thank you for that. And again, it's an honor for us to do this. I feel very privileged to be in a position to do this. And, having you guys here just makes it all that much better. So thank you. Tia Mia, thank you as always. Comment, your uncle's mental health is worsening weekly. Question, how long? That is the question. That is the question. But yes, I mean, the deterioration is quite obvious and alarming if you care. But clearly nobody around him does care. He's still useful. He's still useful enough to them. So how long indeed? I have a feeling we're going to find out. Just don't know when. All right. Got some people here to thank. All right. First, some super stickers. 6 cents Amelia. Awesome. Thank you so much. Cindy Bolt, as always, thank you. Regina, thank you very much for that. Awesome. Gary, another Canadian in the house. Thank you for that, Gary. Donna, thank you. That's fantastic. Mariana, thank you as always. Excellent. Michelle, thank you also as always. Jen, thank you very much. Cree, hopefully I got that right. Thank you for that. And again, excellent. Thank you. Dumpster Diving Dragon is back. Thank you. Appreciate it. John, thank you as well. One more comment. Marianne, thank you very much. Appreciate that comment. I'm so glad you're here. I dealt with a narcissist once, and once is more than enough. And now you're dealing with one twice. Yeah, it's tough on everybody. But again, really grateful you all are here. I just want to say again how thankful we are that everybody's watching on YouTube, Twitter, live streaming from my Substack, The Good in Us, and of course listening to the podcast. Thank you to all of the super stickers and people giving us gifts. We try to mention everybody. We can't always do that. So if we didn't mention you, I apologize, but we will keep trying to do better. But seriously, your donations are vitally important to this mission we're on. So thank you to our amazing moderators who do extraordinary work for us and for you, the community, and to my team who every day just kind of reminds me why we're doing this and sifts through the horrors in a way that I just can have to stand back and admire because it's tough. I promise you it is tough. So thanks, guys. That does it for us. I think it's Tuesday. Look at me getting better at remembering the days of the week. We will be back tomorrow night at 6 p.m. for Mary Trump Live. That's 6 p.m. Eastern every weeknight. And please don't forget, we have videos dropping every day that you should check out. They're shorter. They are much more focused on a specific, most of the time on a specific issue that we think is vitally important for you to be up on. So, it's extremely helpful for us too if you watch them, like them, and share them, just as it is helpful to us if you subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And then after you subscribe, click on the bell icon because that way you'll be alerted every time new content drops, which again is every day, every single day. So it's all there for you to catch up on if there's any particular thing that piques your interest. And as you know, we're trying to grow, and our next goal is 400,000 subscribers, and we're closing in on it. And we could not do that without you. So spread the word, subscribe, all that stuff. And again, I will be back tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, everybody, please stay safe and be kind.